Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome to all our guests and petitioners. It's nice to see you all here this evening, and welcome fellow commissioners. And let's see here if we can take attendance.
Marlene Newman.
Here.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Here.
Daniel Schlegel.
Here.
Sam DeSoller. John Saunders. Elizabeth Mitchell. William Folk.
Here.
Raynard Cross.
Here. Very good. Okay, our first order of business is we have several sets of minutes to approve. So it looks like the first one is August 22nd. Yes, ma'am?
Bill, I believe the minutes usually reflect the presence or absence of the advisory board, too.
Forgive me. My first meeting
Because
back
I'm
in a
often
while.
late.
Yes, I forgot to do the advisory members. Duncan Campbell.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Karen Duffy.
Here.
Jeremy Hackard. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you for that. So our first set of minutes, August 22nd. Do we have a motion? Okay. Do we have a second? Okay.
All right. Marlene Newman.
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
William Folk.
Yes.
Raynard Cross.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved, 5-0.
Great, thank you. And the second set of minutes, same thing, September 26th.
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, Marlene Newman.
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
William Folk.
Yes.
Raynard Cross.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved, 5-0.
Okay, and our last set, October 10th. We have a motion
Second.
and a second?
Second.
Daniel?
Okay, so you motioned. and-
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Marlene Newman.
They're not in the packet.
No, they were sent out as an addendum this
Oh,
morning.
that's right.
Yeah.
I think I got it. I can't remember whether I was there or not. I'll say yes.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel.
Yes.
William Folk.
Yes.
And Raynard Cross.
Yes.
Okay, minutes approved, 5-0.
Okay, and we will move on to our staff review COAs next, but before that, I would like to make a request. We've got a very full agenda tonight, and I believe, Daniel, you have to leave a little bit early today,
A little after 7.
a little after 7, so we've got a lot to get accomplished. So my request is if we can keep questions and comments as succinct as possible to get through everything tonight. Be much appreciated. Okay? Noah, you're up.
All right, first item, COA 2442. The petitioner is Dave Harstad. The address is 401 East 4th Street in the Restaurant Row Historic District. The building is a non-contributing Queen Anne style house built in 2006. And the request is to replace the garage door on the house with a similar model with 2 rows of windows. The alteration constitutes a minor change to a non-contributing building and will not have a significant impact on the district's historic streetscape. The proposed door differs from the existing door only in the addition of 2 rows of windows fitting to the shapes of existing panels. Our next COA 2443 is for 1104 North Grant Street in the Garden Hill Historic District. The petitioner is MX LLC. This is a significantly altered building, now a duplex that is rated non-contributing. Built in 1940, as a small gable front house. You can see kind of the original portion on the left. 1104 North Grant Street has been significantly altered with the addition of a large side addition and the removal of original materials. The house has been converted into a duplex, and there is also a small non-contributing accessory dwelling unit built in 1946 but significantly altered. During an interior renovation, significant structural deficiencies were discovered in the foundation and rafters, in addition to more minor problems throughout the house. The petitioner is now considering demolishing the structure and at some point building anew. The request is for a full demolition. Staff recommends approval of COA 2443. The house at 1104 North Grant is rated as non-contributing, and none of the original character-defining features are apparent. And although new construction plans have not been proposed, a replacement structure would need to meet district guidelines. I also sent an email out to the district design review committee for comment, and they responded a receipt basically saying, thank you for letting us know, but no further comment.
Very good. And so do we have someone here from this? Yes, would you like to fill us in?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. We purchased the property kind of as a cash flowing property. There were Section 8 tenants in there. The first thing we did after buying it is we replaced the roof fully. And because it was leaking, and since there were tenants in there, we replaced the roof. So that does have a new roof on it. And then when the tenants, when the tenants moved out, we started trying to do a very cosmetic remodel to it, so that we could potentially get it ready for next school year. Basically, not intending in any way to get into too deep into the property, and definitely not to demo the property. Unfortunately, as these are
recording in progress.
Unfortunately, as these are wont to do, we discovered more and more issues that, and then we basically were, thought we would have to do a very thorough remodel of the property. The problem that we're running into more than anything else is the fact that this is a altered duplex that was not done to code in any way. So getting back to firewalls, it would be virtually impossible. We do a lot of new construction for, not only single family but multifamily, and really like to meet code, if nothing else. The biggest issue we're running into is firewall and the foundation being in the shape that it is. As you can see, all the floor system is supported by concrete blocks that are sitting on raw dirt. Most of the clearance is between 12 and 16 inches. We did have Kevin Potter do a report on the property, identifying the defects and everything that would have to happen. We didn't go into this, obviously, recognize it was a historic district, did not go into it wanting to do anything major to the property. And now we're basically at the point where we'd be happy to build anything and want feedback from the commission on what they would like to see there. And of course, we will have to go back through the commission to approve, and we'd like to work hand in hand with commission members to come up with a product that fits both the neighborhood and it's currently a duplex. We're flexible in what we want to build, either a single family home or a duplex, but don't really have anything large or in mind. Obviously it's zoned MS on this property, but we don't really have a desire to build like an apartment building or anything like that on it. The main thing is there's no real redeeming quality. We realize it's an historic district, but the house itself, or duplex rather, is altered and just doesn't really have a redeeming quality. If I could build a brand new version of the exact same thing, it would be better than trying to band-aid this. So that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I had, after we knew we had quorum, I reached out to Noah a couple days ago, seeing if we could do a tour to show everybody, but I think the timing and the weather just didn't work out.
Okay.
But I think the pictures really represent, and Noah has been on the site, and seen kind of what, we've got going on.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
So Commissioner comments. Daniel, would you like to start?
Comments or questions?
I'm sorry, questions?
Okay, just want to make sure I was
Yeah.
in the right.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
Is legal, I want to make sure I ask the right questions and make sure I.
Sure.
Because one question I just had was, for this building, in your notes, Noah, you had said that they'd have to do to district guidelines, if they tore this down to
Right.
rebuild. So that would come before us after the district gets to see it?
Right.
That's correct? Okay, and then my only other question then, because I genuinely don't know, is if they do tear it down, is there a timeline? Like, do they have, within 2 years they have to build, or can it sit vacant for a while?
There's no requirement.
Okay, that's all I had, I was just curious.
Yeah.
We do intend for there not to be a large, turn in time, which is.
Okay. Okay, thank you, I was just curious, I didn't know if you were required, like, within a year to get started, or 2 years or something, I wasn't
The
sure.
demo permits are a year, so my understanding is we would have to go back through after 1 year.
Mine is a question more for clarification than anything. It seems to me that at a previous meeting, our last meeting, and I think I wasn't here, there was a house, and asking for it was being asked to demolish. But there was a question then of cost of rehab versus cost on the market that seemed to be in play to determine whether the house should be demolished or not. Is that a guideline?
That's a guideline for contributing buildings, and this one's rated non-contributing.
Okay, so as a non-contributing building, that doesn't apply necessarily to this.
Right.
All right, thank you.
No question.
Renard?
No questions.
No questions.
Sorry. Sorry, if I may, I have, give me a second. Was there any, other than these pictures, were there any supporting documents submitted?
Oh, I also received a structural engineer support report.
Well, it's not here.
Oh, no, it's not in the packet.
Okay, but,
And essentially, it describes a lot of the stuff that Ernest was talking about sagging rafters, a lot of the problems that, come from the foundation and how it was laid, particularly in the side addition, running through what the necessary repairs would be.
yeah, I'd like to see it. Oh, I can't understand why it wasn't here. I mean, essentially, I'm taking the petitioner's word that there's an engineer's report, and the engineer report said this and concluded that. And I'd rather have the report rather than, not to indict the veracity of the petitioner's claims, but if I'm going to vote yea or nay on something based on a report, I'd like to see the report. So, how was the report submitted? Email?
Yes, it was a PDF.
Do you have it?
I do have it.
Could you send it?
Shoot. Let's see. Do you mind, Ernest, if I
Yes,
share the report?
absolutely.
All right.
Who should I share it to? Do you want me to send it back to you, Noah? Would that be easiest?
Let me see. Actually, I have it still, yes.
There were 2 documents. There was the original and then the addendum.
The additional, yes, okay. I'll send those to our email chain.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, let's continue on. Back to Daniel. Comments?
No, although I usually like to see buildings rehabbed or saved, I can kind of see this one's pretty rough, and from Noah's research, how it's not contributing. I mean, unless any of my fellow commissioners have a very persuasive argument, I'm inclined to agree with Noah.
Thank you. Jack?
Yeah, looking at the criteria for demolition, it seems that there are 3 of the 5 items that really recommend to me that the building should be demolished. One of them is the fact that it is deteriorated, it is in disrepair, and it has some structural stability problems. Then the fact that it doesn't really contribute to the historic character of the neighborhood. And a third item, that development is probably of greater significance than the retention of the existing structure. So those 3 items right there, I think, say probably that it's reasonable to demolish the building.
Nothing to add, but I agree with him.
Bernard?
A second. You can just, if you just let me be the last.
Marlene?
I think the structure looks like a disaster. I mean,
We really wanted to,
I know, the spans
we were
are,
just gonna,
you know, they're big, they're long spans, and they put the blocks in.
that is
to-
actually in the report, like,
Right,
talking
yes.
specifically about
It's
the
a-
fact that
it's a
it
complete-
doesn't meet structure, and,
No.
it's so far apart.
It's, yeah, well, and so they put the blocks in to sort of shorten the span.
Yeah,
That's
there's
terrible.
water lines in the attic, and, I mean, all sorts of good
And-
things that,
And then there's sistered joists, and it's a mess. Sistered, it's a mess. So the structure alone is giving me a headache just looking at the pictures. So it's like, as an architect, I think it's thumbs down for me.
Yeah, there's not much left. I wouldn't be opposed for a demolition.
Okay.
No comment.
Okay, and I had no comments. Bernard, back to you.
Yeah, in situations like this, I've grown accustomed to seeing where the specific reasons for the petition are listed. And I don't see it here. I see a lot of background. And is it that I'm expected to read into this information as to the petitioner's reason for requesting full demolition? Because I normally see, these are the reasons that the petitioner, the criteria for demolition. And I see, right, I see 5 here, but I don't see which specific one the petitioner is asking us to consider. Is it fire damage? Is it water damage? Is it, historical architecture? There are a number here, and I can't see, the petitioner is requesting, authorization to demolish this because of 2, 4, and 5. So I don't know exactly what the reason behind the petition is. And again, did you send the?
I just sent it out, the report.
Right. I'm not happy with how this petition was made. And, whereas I can read into the information and make an assumption, I'd rather not. Right? If he's making the petition on the grounds that the building is beyond repair and is a safety concern, then I would suspect we should have been presented with information to justify that. And we're just now getting an email with the engineer's report, but it's also not stated explicitly in the petition. At least I can't find it in the documents that I have here. Anything explicitly stating just that. So, 5 years from now, 5 months from now, if somebody looks at the decision, on what basis was the decision made?
Anything else, Renard?
No, that's my comment.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve, that the proper approve, since it's COA, I was expecting DD. So I'm, approve COA 24-43.
Okay. Marlene Newman?
So could you? What?
Is approved for demolition,
Yes.
that's what she wants to know.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Can you restate that? Daniel, can restate your motion? You're approving the demolition of,
COA 24-43. It's 43, right?
yeah, 43.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Ernesto?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
William Falk?
Yes.
Reynard Cross?
Stand.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0-1.
Thank you.
Next item, COA 2444. This is for 701 West 4th Street in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. Petitioner is Heather Coggy. 701 West 4th Street, it's a slightly altered, minimal traditional 1935 house with a small 1950s addition added to the southwest L. The house is several decades younger than most of its neighbors on 4th Street and sits at the base of a hill ascending Fairview Street. COA 2434 came to the HPC on September 26, 2024, and received conditional approval for the side addition and garage ADU. Further conversation following the vote demonstrated general support for the proposed front addition and mixed support for a proposed front porch. When the proposed porch was reconsidered on October 10th, 2024, the craftsman-inspired design was rejected by the commission. The petitioners have returned with a modified design inspired by the house's minimal traditional aesthetic. And the request is for the construction of a front porch with a modified design, as you'll see in your packet. And staff recommends approval of COA 2444. The revised porch designs narrow square corner posts and pent roof that matches the pitch of the roof on the original structure are characteristic of minimal traditional porches that are often offset to the side with roof lines that appear to be extensions of the house. The design does not obfuscate the building's character-defining features.
Okay, thank you, Noah. And is the petitioner here?
Yes.
Our petitioner's representative?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mark Arnett.
Hi, Mark. Would you like to fill us in?
Any questions, we can answer any questions.
Okay, very good. So we'll get right to questions then. Daniel, first up?
I can't think of any right now, no.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jack?
No.
No?
No? Bernard?
If I remember, the addition to the back was approved
Yes.
and the one to the side.
Yes.
And we were just waiting for the addition to the front to be reworked.
Yes.
The addition was approved with the porch was
Right.
Did the revisions meet with the criteria set out in the last meeting?
Yes, the primary objection in the last meeting was to the craftsman style design of the new front porch. And this is a porch that's more in keeping with the style of the house.
And me not being an architect, are the architects here satisfied with this new design? I don't know a craftsman from.
Look, it's not perfect.
Okay, that's.
Thank Thank you, Bernard.
I request the opinion of people who know more than me, so.
Marlene?
No questions.
Duncan?
My only question is I can't quite read the railing. What's the material for that?
You can't quite read the what?
The railing, porch railing. It's metal, and that's all there. I want to look up something to look that, you know. I guess is it painted, is it
Painted? Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
like just to match the rest of the house, or?
yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. I have no questions, so.
Looks like we've got a hand raised
Oh, yes.
here in Zoom land. So, okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is
Richard
Richard Lewis. I'm a Prospect Hill resident and a member of the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District Design Review Committee, speaking as an individual member of the committee tonight, not on behalf of the committee as a whole. I wanted to thank the commission members for continuing to review this property, which a couple members of our design review committee have already provided our approval for. As regarding the new design, I appreciate the fact that it reflects a more neutral and sort of traditional aspect than the craftsman porch roof line did earlier. I appreciate the fact that the front addition is offset a bit from the eastern, the Fairview Street facade of the original house, so that the original house remains visible. And overall, I appreciate the fact that the homeowner is, I think, taking thoughtful steps to reflect the concerns and the input from the commission. In our historic district guidelines, we do try to assist new and existing property owners, architects, and contractors who wish to live and or work in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. And we try to provide reasonable assistance and guidance so that homeowners can make reasonable renovations to their homes. And since this is the second homeowner that has come forward with proposed renovations for this house, it signals that in today's age there are certain functionality issues with this property, and I appreciate that the homeowner has taken thoughtful steps to try to address those that I hope will meet the commission's approval. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Richard. Daniel, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, actually, before I realized he was with Design Committee, I was gonna ask if they've reviewed this new one and if they've responded to so. Sounds
I
like
had
they were.
not sent out the new design because I'd received, general approval for the previous design, so.
Okay,
It seemed to indicate to me the sort of the temperature of the committee.
okay, so it sounds like they are in favor of the revamped design before us.
Comments?
I don't remember exactly how the other design was, but I think this one looks a lot better, more in line, like the gentleman just said, so I'm inclined to be in favor of this.
Yeah.
As far as I can see, it carries out the existing roof theme. It's a pyramidal sort of roof, and it carries it out exactly. It has a simple design to it, as is the house simple. The posts are slim and simple. The railing seems very similar to the existing railing, and all in all, I think I would recommend approval.
Yes, I like it very much, and I really appreciate your patience in reworking this, and it seems to me, I'm no architect, but it does seem to me that it fits and complements the style of the house very much. So thank you, and I would recommend approval.
No comment. Marlene?
to say anything. I like it. And I think it's a big improvement over the other effort. And just for the record, this is not a pent roof. It's a hipped roof. So you might want to change that in the findings.
Do I say pent or do I say hip? No, I say pent.
But I think it's very suitable for the house.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your efforts on this. So do we have a motion?
I motion we approve COA 2444 as presented.
Do we have a second? Marlene seconds.
Okay. Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
William Falk,
Yes.
Reynard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. Next, item COA 2445 for 1029 West 6th Street in the Near West Side Historic District. 1029 West 6th Street is a slightly altered Victorian era gabled L. In May 2024, the petitioner received approval for the replacement of the unoriginal porch railing posts with wood posts and railings, and the installation of a prefabricated garage on the rear of the lot. The current front doors, or at least the one on the side gable, appear original. The primary entrance is a wood door with a 1/3 window covering the top half of the door and 3 panels set in the bottom half. The door to the L features classically inspired paneling with a large window with a shallow arch. The secondary door is currently inoperable, presumably because of repeated painting and disuse. The petitioner requests, please consider this request for replacement of the front doors at 1029 West 6th Street in the Near West Side neighborhood. Current doors do not match one another, and one is inoperable and has been since I've been familiar with the house for almost 20 years. So, a couple of options are suggested. The preferred option is for 30-inch replacement doors with 15 windows to enhance light into the room. You can see in your packet there's a image of this door. In my recommendation, staff does not recommend approval of COA 2445. The proposed replacement doors are similar to replacement doors that can be found on other contributing buildings in the district and are not unsympathetic to the appearance of the house or neighborhood. However, the existing doors are most likely original and one of the few remaining original materials visible on the home's exterior. The property owner should not be denied the use of an entryway that is currently has a non-functioning door, but because of the door's contribution to the building's architectural integrity, staff believes that repair should be considered over replacement. Now, I just heard back from the Neighborhood Design Review Committee earlier today, and they recommend approval of the proposed doors.
Okay, thank you, Noah. Is the petitioner here?
I am here.
Oh,
I'm
thank you.
Suze. I brought some pictures of it. The door, I have this house where I live now, just so you can see. The door, the picture you have is from the website.
Thank you.
And so there's kind of a little story with this. When I first decided to look at changing the doors, and I want to say I understand exactly where Noah's coming from. He is so helpful. Every time I call him, I thank him so much for that. He's been very, very helpful on helping me understand how this process works, especially. Originally, what I wanted to do was try to find a door like the door on the right. And I found one that was in very poor condition and really expensive. And so I changed gears and started trying to find a door like the one on the left. And I could probably do that. I haven't found one yet because it is a 30-inch door and they're kind of hard to find. What I wanted to do was to, the back door's in real bad shape, parts of the bottom of missing, and I was going to move this brown one to the back door and then try to get another one like this white one. But when it didn't seem like I was gonna be able to make that happen, and I'm always looking for doors, and I have doors in storage, and I mean, I love these old doors, they're great, but it is kind of hard to find them, and I think they should match. That's my opinion, I think they should match. But, so in looking for doors, I found an interior set of French doors, in an old Craftsman that was being torn down, 1932 Craftsman being torn down in Columbus. They're interior French doors, and they might work for this. My contractor hasn't seen them, but I measured them, took some pictures, and I was gonna bring one of those too, but my printer stopped working, so I couldn't do it. And they're exactly like their 15 light doors too. So it's a solid wood door. They're a little wide, so they could be cut down and they could be used here. And then I shared this story, and then I can use this interior door on the right. I could use it, and I just did this on a Bloomington restorations project. There was a double cathedral window door on the back exterior that had not been in use. And so what I did was use it in the interior as a bedroom door, and we built an archway right into where that door stands, and it's very beautiful. And so I think there's a greater appreciation for it than it would have been as the back door whenever I had it there. And I think that could happen with this, that I could make it useful and people would enjoy it. I know you can't hardly tell by this picture, but people don't see that door on the right when they drive by because it's the one tucked north to south, and so you don't really see it. But then I'm going to share this story because I shared it with Nolan. He said I could share this, or that maybe I should, and that is I had a homeless woman, and we have a lot more homeless traffic on 6th Street than we've ever had before, and I think I know why, but I'm not sure. I think they say at Shalom, go up to the north side of the courthouse and turn left and keep walking until you get to Wheeler. That's what I think is happening because the traffic has really changed in our neighborhood. So I was meeting with a guy about tile in my front yard, and this woman walked into the back door, through the alley, into the back door, through the house, came out my front door, and threatened to ask for $20. And I had a bunch of people working, and I didn't give it to her. She threatened to kill me, kill all my dogs that were out front too, and burn the house down. And it's the first time I started thinking about not feeling very secure with these old doors. And I'm not expecting everybody's gonna change their doors, but I'd be lying if I didn't say it made me start thinking differently about how home I'm going to live in that has a door you can easily punch out and reach in and turn the doorknob. And so I don't say that to be melodramatic and say, so you have to approve this door. I'm really looking for a solution, but I did start feeling differently about it. If I get an approval for the not wood doors, I promise I would use that door and it would be kept and it would be beautiful. We're remodeling the inside of this building, the house now, and it's lovely and it would fit beautifully inside and people would appreciate it. It would not be seen from the front. Noah makes a good point. It's about all that's left, except the shape of the building. It's just about all that's left out there. But I have dogs, they're my family, and I have 5 doors very similar to this in the house where I live, and they can see out, and that's kind of a fun thing too, to have them. I know that it doesn't have anything to do with historical, but part of the reason I like those low windows is so the dogs can see out. And so another idea, and we were just chatting earlier, is to get the half-light one, and I can do that too if you think it would be more appropriate. So I'm really open, but I'm not happy with unmatched doors on the front that don't feel very safe. So I'm really open. I'm not taking a hard stand either way. I need help.
Thank you, Sue.
Okay.
Ken? I have to get used to being first, so I've been trying to jot some notes down. So I just had 2 questions for you, ma'am. The first one is, out of curiosity, have you looked into restoring those doors at all?
No.
Okay.
I was just gonna get one to match the brown one.
Right.
And use that one maybe for the back door. But no, I have guys there that are working on the house, but they don't restore old doors. We didn't talk about it.
Okay, and then the second one is, I know you said you really like old doors, which I think are underappreciated most of the time.
Uh-huh.
Have you touched base with BRI, the Bloomington Restoration?
Yeah, I just did a house for them. with
You
them.
did, okay.
Uh-huh, and I used that door, I wish
Okay.
you don't have time for me to find it, but I was gonna print that out too. On the back door there was a double cathedral.
Yeah, you had mentioned, I
Right,
just
we
missed that
used
you,
it
I
in
just
the
missed
house.
that you had gotten that from BRI. I just wanted to make sure you
Yes.
were in touch with,
Yes.
Steve. So,
Yes.
okay, that's all I had.
No questions?
I have a few, and which doors need replacement? I mean, there's a lot of information here, and maybe I'm just having a bit of a difficulty following what is being requested.
So the proposals for the replacement of these two. front
Both of
doors.
them?
Yes.
Right.
The
And,
proposed replacement would be this design here.
right, and it was denied, or it was not recommended?
It was not recommended.
Okay. And, question, have you tried to repair the doors?
Well, I've never even opened that one. I've had this house 5 years. I've never even opened the white one. I think we will damage it to open it, but we could be real careful with it. We might lose a little off the sides, but it's not in horrible condition on the
Right.
one on the right.
So you haven't explored, finding a craftsman or someone that could possibly remove it,
Well, what
sand
I
it down?
don't think is I can get another one like it to where I could have 2 doors that match on the front.
But I didn't see in the packet a requirement to have 2 doors of the same kind. That's not a requirement. So to satisfy the criteria, basically all you need to do is to fix the doors that are there. Is it that you want 2 doors that are the same?
Yes.
And you want to replace both of them with this type of door?
Well, initially, I was gonna just replace the one on the right. And it's, yeah. Yes, I would like to replace both of them with better doors.
Okay.
And it's important to me, I know maybe it's not important to historical preservation, but I don't know. I think the doors should match on the front, and maybe they shouldn't, maybe they never did.
No, they probably did.
I would think they would have.
So, I see the reasoning behind your non-recommendation. If a replacement could be found for either one, that would match the other, but of a different material. Let me rephrase the question. Is it just the style or the material or both that is the issue?
So I think that the proposed design that Sue's suggested is fine. I guess my concern isn't so much about the style of door as it is the removal of original material. And that's something that, according to Near West Side district guidelines, can be approved or denied on the basis of just a staff approval, but I wanted more input on this one.
But my thinking is that the style, you said you don't have an issue with style, but I mean, the style to me doesn't look to be in keeping with the style of doors on this house. So I'm trying to...
The proposed style for replacement?
Right. This door looks ultra modern
Mhm.
as opposed to that, but you just said that you don't really have an issue with the style.
Well, the thing is, the district guidelines don't prescribe a specific style, so
Right.
I wouldn't want to go out of my way to then prescribe a style, say, assuming there wasn't an original door in the front of this house, to say, no, you now need a door that
Looks like
looks like,
what was there before.
Queen Anne or Folk Victorian.
Okay. And as far as you know, these doors are original. They weren't replaced at
The
some
one on
point.
the left, I'm not sure. The one on the right, I don't know when it would have been installed, if not when the house was built.
And you've not explored having any of these doors repaired?
Well, no.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Bernard. Marlene?
I don't have any questions.
No, I think, no.
I don't have any questions, I have comments.
Okay, and I have no questions, so Daniel, back to you.
Maybe I just don't know enough about the proposed door, but it seems like that's a lot of glass too, to be, that could get punched. I mean, maybe the glass is thicker,
Yeah.
more
Not
resistant.
compared to these doors, it's different.
I don't know, I'm torn on it, because from what Noah said, that the district was okay with the proposed door, but I do also like those at least the one especially original, but I also understand the safety feature, how important that is in a changing community, so, I could be kind of swayed either way. I'm not real hardline either side of this.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, we're a historic preservation commission, and it seems to me we need to lean on the side of historic preservation in a case like this. The door that's being proposed, especially the one that's in the documentation, and the other one as well, is completely different designed. It doesn't seem to me to fit in the design of this house, whereas the two doors that are there obviously do. The fact that they're two different style doors, I think, this is a personal thing with me, but I think that they could be redone and done in such a way to be quite attractive entrances to this house and presented very well. As far as getting the doors repaired, my experience says those doors can be repaired. But this one has never been tried. It hasn't been taken out of its entrance and opened and tried, but I think it should be, and I think the other doors should be looked at seriously as being redone and repaired. Now, what I might recommend, I'm recommending that be in line with staff recommendation and turn this down, but also to say that these doors, I think, could be made quite attractive, and we've discussed this before, an exterior door that has a large pane of glass, a glass front that shows these doors to advantage over the front of these doors could also provide some security and some protection for the doors, and I think still be very attractive for the house. So I'm in line with staff recommendation.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, let's see, I'll just make a couple of little comments about, to clarify maybe the committee exchange, since I'm on that committee. We didn't meet about it and have an extended discussion, and so we didn't really talk about the fact that these were original doors. I didn't even realize myself that the brown one might be.
I'm not positive that it's original, but I know that they have doors like that at the time the house was built.
Yeah, that didn't, yeah. And we did, so we didn't really discuss that. Nobody brought that issue up. And our guidelines are very open about door styles. A couple of things we said, we all encouraged her to consider a lower solid half and the panes of the upper half, but these were, fine, because our guidelines don't specify door style. It might be good for you to know that this multi-pane, small window like this, 50, it's common for storm doors in the neighborhood. They're all, I have them, and a number of houses have quite old ones like that. So that's all.
Thank you. I believe the petitioner's argument in support of the petition would be greatly, enhanced or bolstered if some attempt was made to investigate repairing these doors. My experience says that it possibly could be. I mean, it's not falling off the hinges. I mean, it could be stripped down and refinished in some way. And the fact that it wasn't even attempted, or investigated is concerning to me. Secondly, at the very least, I'm saying I would be swayed, and this is not to say how I would vote if it came back to me in a different form, but I would more readily support something that looked like for like, right? If some replacement door was being proposed that looked like the ones that were there, I would be more inclined to consider it favorably. But this door that is being suggested is completely different. It gives the house a completely different look. I don't believe it fits. It certainly is not in keeping with the character of the house, I don't think. And such, I am not inclined to support the petitioner's request. Thank you, regardless. Marlene?
I would think that it would be a good idea to try to refurbish the door on the right. It's kind of a cool looking door. It's got lots of nice detail. And I accidentally found one that is very similar to that, if not identical, which was from a salvage place. So it's very similar to that, with the little arch and the same sort of detailing. So I think it's in Indiana, and it's really pretty close. I would suggest trying to refurbish the door on the right and maybe find something like this for the door on the left that was similar, same period, wood, same details. And then I would suggest getting a storm door in front of each of them that were full light, and then the doors would be featured pretty prominently and look kind of beautiful, and that would offer a lot of security that she feels is missing from those doors. But I can't support the ones that were suggested. And having worked on buildings where the windows and the doors were restored, I know it's possible. That's all I can say. I'm done. Thank you.
Next up.
Yes, I feel perfectly fine having two types of doors. I think in my opinion, it's perfectly fine. I think it's part of the character of an old house. I think it's a missed opportunity to look into restoring these doors. And I like the idea that Marlene suggested about having storefronts so that they look the same from the outside. And yes, I wouldn't approve this style. It doesn't even, there's nothing that resembles the character, the period of the house or the neighborhood. We wouldn't recommend all the grid, and also it's a steel door. So I align with staff recommendations to deny.
Thank you. Next up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I think they probably did match at one time, and one of them got replaced with the one on the left, that brown one. I have a house in town that has 7 exterior doors. 3 of them are like this, and the rest aren't. They're all original. So, I'm pretty confident this one's original. And so I concur with staff that maintaining original material should be the primary goal in these houses. That said, I've also repaired lots of these doors, and they're extremely well made, and they can be repaired and fitted and put back in there, and it work just fine. So I'm absolutely confident that could happen, probably for less than you could buy one of those doors that you're proposing. I kind of get wanting them to match. Typically, if you have original material that is deteriorated to such an extent that it cannot be used, which I don't think is the case here, if it were, the typical historic preservation recommendation would be to replace it with a door of like architectural detail, but less architectural detail, which in this case would mean a plain white half-light door.
I was gonna ask, can I just get 2 plain half-light doors that are?
Well, I'm saying in case your doors were not operable, they're both historic doors, by the way. I know, but imagine a house built in 1850, and in 1890, somebody puts a Victorian porch on it, and then some historic preservationist wants to tear that historic porch off 100 years later, and the Preservation Commission says, no, the house is historic and so is the porch. You've got 2 old doors, just to simplify it. Obviously, the one on the right is the one that has more historic value. It's an original door, plus it's a lovely neoclassical door. You know why they're hard to find? Because there aren't very many of them.
Yeah, the 30 inches is hard too.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I'm finding that.
But I mean, I agree with people, the very least you can do is open the door and see what kind of condition it's in, because I know it can be made operable, so that the argument that you haven't sort of doesn't play very well with.
Well, my argument is I don't think they're safe.
Well, if somebody wants to get into your house.
I knew someone was gonna say that, but it's, as I said, it's.
So safety isn't really.
I know it's not
our
important to this
purview.
board, but.
I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with what makes you feel safe, but it's not really our purview. Security, if the house were gonna fall down on you, then it would be our purview. But whether somebody can get in this door or another door or a window somewhere, we really can't go there.
That's true.
We
The
just can't go
windows-
there.
The
So
windows are just.
so I have to keep these 2 mismatched doors.
The vote hasn't been taken yet. I'm just giving you.
I mean, but
I'm
that's
just
what
giving you my-
everybody's saying, so I'm just gonna have mismatched doors, because it's hard for me to
I-
believe that
I'm-
those were original.
I'm not quite done yet, but I know the one on the right is, I would say I'm 99% sure it's original.
I would think.
The one on the left I know isn't, because I know they matched originally. That's the way these houses were built, and I've worked in, and so has Chris, hundreds of them. So, I would be much more inclined to say, why don't you change the one keep the one on the right, fix it, make it work right, whether you ever use it or not. I mean, you can screw it shut if you want to, if you're worried about security, And if you want to go in the one on the left, find one that is a very close match, if not a match. And, one of our members has already found a match just sitting here. So they're out there.
Yeah, I've looked at them and found some
Okay.
that were not in very good condition, but.
Or a full half-light door, paint it white, that is as close a match to that one as possible. That is a new door.
And change the brown one to one that looks more like the white one.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm giving you about three different ways to go at it. But I think I have to concur with staff that I wouldn't recommend replacing, even if you take it inside and save it, it isn't the same thing. I appreciate what you're saying, but we have people say, well, I want to take all the windows out of my house, but don't worry, I'll put them in the basement. Well, that's not where we want them, So, I think you have some choices here, but typically a replacement ought to match the original as closely as possible and be simpler. That's how future historians tell it's not original.
Did you say similar or simpler?
Similar and simpler. In other words, not as decorative,
Oh, I see.
or match it.
I see.
And you can find a white half-light door at anywhere. And I wouldn't care whether it was fiberglass or not, as long as it was white and it
I looked
matched,
at those two.
you know. Because at that point, it's not, where nobody's pretending for it to be an original or historic door, we're just trying to make it look compatible. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Duncan. Okay, I believe I'm hearing we have a consensus. Do we have a motion?
I have a comment.
Oh, yes, sir.
I have nothing to do with this project, but we were chatting before the meeting. And I know that the Near West Side, when they adopted their guidelines, considered themselves to be preservation light and thought a lot about people that needed to make changes that might not be so strictly kosher to preservation action. They compromised on vinyl windows, if I remember right. And that was their attitude. And I've also restored many of these doors. And they'll never be as weather tight, they'll never be as secure as, say, the half-light metal door that she's asking for. And of course, these always matched. And her instincts to make them match is good. And look at the threshold nail on the bottom of that door that's been shut for years. It's gonna take some work, but it can definitely be restored. But, this house has been quite modified. Look at the siding. Maintaining that one door, when the homeowner would really like two secure half-light, she'd settle for half-light doors. She's gonna move into this house as she retires. And keeping those doors closed and secure and locked and open and shutting well, that's gonna be an issue for her. So I'm going against the current here and saying, I can see her argument for replacing the two doors. It will be expensive, but she'll feel more secure. And she could even get a film that made the breaking of that front glass less easy and more safe. But anyway, I just want to make my comment that if I was voting, I think I would support her getting two half-light, two panel doors that would be strong and secure and weather tight and serve her for the next 15 or 20 years very nicely.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have a motion?
So just to be clear, so the current COA is for this 15-panel door? But if there was if she came back with the suggested between what Duncan had said and what Chris had said, and I think Marlene, you had some, so if she was able to come back, we would re-vote at that time on an update. But right now is for the 15
It's on this.
Okay, just to make sure I'm 100% clear on that.
I move that we do not approve COA 2445.
Thank you, Renard.
I'll second.
Daniel's a second. Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
William Falk,
Yes.
Reynard Cross.
Yes.
Okay, motion to deny carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'll get back in touch with me if you have any more ideas.
Sure will.
And if I can just make a comment, Commissioners, great feedback, presenting alternatives. I think we gave Sue several different.
Sorry, I missed that last.
I said great feedback from the Commissioners, presenting several different opportunities of how to get to where you want to go to.
All right, moving on to demolition delay. We have two items tonight. The first is for 800 East Grimes Lane, and the petitioner is Ernest G. The request is for full demolition. This is a California bungalow built between 1933 and 1936. It passed through a quick succession of occupants between 1936 and 1962. I couldn't find anybody who stayed there for longer than 5 years. For the next 30 years, the house was owned and occupied by Helen Pershing, who moved to Bloomington from Madison, Indiana, following her divorce. During this time, she held jobs with Sarks Tarzian, RCA plant, and Bloomington Hospital. And the request is for full demolition. And staff recommends the release of DD 2421.
Okay. Thank you, Noah. Do we have the petitioner here?
Yep. So I'm representing the Crowder's family and their request. Hate to be the guy that brings multiple demos. Just happened that way.
Okay. Let's go to questions. And Daniel? Let's reverse order so you don't have to go first this time.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Okay. How, Ernesto?
We're changing the game here. Question, have you guys looked into remodeling this house?
I have not, but I think there's a use that the client would like that is not this house. So as a demo delay, that is my understanding.
What do you mean another use?
Oh, a redevelopment use.
Can you tell us what that would be?
I believe, well, I realize it's not in the purview of the future use, but they are in the process of looking at going through Bryant Park Neighborhood Association to get a conditional use application for a duplex.
That's all I have.
Okay. Duncan?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Daniel, now round to you.
Just out of curiosity, what is this area zoned?
R3.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now.
Okay.
This is a non-contributing, we're not in an area that is historic or anyway, correct? And if we follow the recommendation and release, then this house could be demolished as fast as they can get a permit, is that correct?
It's contributing.
Oh, it is contributing, all right.
Yeah, it's the other one.
All right. My real question is why? Why would they ask to demolish this house? There's nothing, no background information here discussing the structure, the style, where it is, anything that I can see that says that it should be demolished. And without any metrics of any kind, I'm just being asked to demolish a house because they want to. I have to question that. That's all I have.
No questions.
Bernard?
Why do they want to demolish the house? That's really the only question. This packet is very thin. I mean, I've seen this commission not even consider applications because there wasn't enough information.
It's not in a historic district.
Yeah,
You either
that's the
designate it
difference.
historic or you're allowed to be demolished.
Pardon?
It's not in a historic district.
That's
It's a
the difference.
demolition delay
but
That's the
application.
difference.
Oh, that's the difference.
That's
Oh,
the
I
difference.
saw
The only
contributing
option is
here.
to nominate
It's
it
contributing,
to be
but there's no,
designated as a
that's
historic
why it's a
site.
demo delay instead of a COA.
No, I get it, but I'd like to at least see some
Yeah.
information as to why it's rated contributing. Is
Because it's in the survey, all the houses that come up for demolition delay are in the historic survey of the city, and it's rated in the survey, but it's not in a historic district, so it's not covered by any of our protections.
Right.
We're just review it for demolition.
Oh,
You know, you've seen dozens of these, right? It's just as frustrating today as it always is.
I have a question.
yeah.
So, okay, so we don't have any purview really over this, but,
The purview is to
Designate.
to
Right,
vote to
so-
designate it as a historic site.
right, so I was wondering if anybody, it doesn't look like it's in that bad a shape, in comparison to the other one that you had.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was wondering if anybody had talked to BRI or anybody about moving the house?
We haven't, I actually have a contract from BRI to review for some of the other houses.
So may-
It is something that, we'll discuss. I don't know if that works for the client's timeline. I will say, this it's either historic or it's not historic. We're just kind of, I was curious to see what, who lived in it, and that's kind of
Mhm.
because obviously it by itself is, a fairly standard bungalow for the neighborhood. And, it may be historic, as the commission, and if it is, then, we're,
Well, it's
ready
not-
to accept the decision.
It's
that the
not in a
commission either way.
district, so we can't really,
Well, you can go to city council with
well,
it.
that's not gonna happen.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that.
Well, then that's.
But I
like-
would think that given that you've been here before and that we've had the same discussion, that
Yeah.
just as a sort of goodwill measure, you would have talked to BRI before. No?
Something I could do is just
Yeah,
tag them
we'll
in an
reach out to
email
Steve.
chain when a DD comes up,
That would be good.
because that's really,
That's a good idea.
when they would be,
Right, but it would,
concerned about something going on.
right. But it would be nice if the owner and the owner's representative, in good faith, would go and talk to BRI and have some sort of idea whether this was possible before they come to us and say, oh, well, there's nothing here, there's nothing we can do, and we're just asking you to demolish it or designate it. And, it would just show good faith to the community, to sort of the interest in having affordable housing that was, in some ways historic. I mean, it's not a bad building, it's not falling apart. So that's my comment. So,
Yes, I mean, here we are again, just because it's been cataloged, it's a contributing structure, but it's not part of a historic district. So, and I understand the financial metrics that they're looking at, right?
yeah.
This is a single unit as opposed to a duplex. Why not, question, and probably you don't know the answer, but if it's financial decision, why not work in some ways to convert this into a duplex, right? Because it's in good shape.
Yeah.
Why can't we add to it and make it a duplex? I know this is not something I'm just throwing that out, but it's just, once again, we're just doing this and not getting anywhere. Legally, they have, I understand, the right to do it.
Can I
Yeah.
just add on to what you're saying? We just looked at one where they added a second unit.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't a fabulous project, but it was a good project. And it's doable, and you get the income without changing the horizon of because we're talking about a neighborhood with little, small
I will
scale.
say, I know it's a future use thing, but what we will be presenting at Bryant Park is something that looks very, very similar to that, because that is what their neighborhood association is gonna want. So
But
what
you're,
will end up being.
you're talking about one floor?
Yeah, it'll be a single story.
At a duplex.
It will be 2-bed, 2-bath on the front, 2-bed, 2-bath on the back.
And then the other thing is, I guess I'm still tagging on to you, and I apologize, but with respect to what Renard, it would have been nice to see a site plan, or at least something that showed how the thing is put on site so
More
that,
context to it.
right, more context.
information. What I'm
So that,
saying, this is, I think that
Yeah.
may be where we're getting outside of our lane of future use.
well, I know, but,
It's just
what,
a concern.
It's on a
Ernest-
corner lot.
and what Ernesto's saying is an addition versus a tear down, because
Yeah,
Be a lot cheaper.
it would be, and it would, it's environmentally more sound.
thank you, yes, I mean,
There are so many reasons to do it that way,
yeah. I mean, the ideas are out there,
right?
it's just the will.
Okay.
I know.
You haven't already heard enough?
You can pass.
I mean,
I do appreciate the comments.
I mean,
And
all the
if it
reasons.
was, you know, I'm representing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
we understand.
We get it.
And I'll wait till.
well, I guess I'm not gonna berate you or anything, that'd be crazy, but, I mean, representing people who aren't thinking about these things might entail some responsibility about suggesting them to them, because we have an environment to protect, we have a cityscape to protect, we have historic buildings like this one to protect, and anything short of that is just a complete disregard for reality, And, I mean, people bitch and bitch and bitch, excuse me, about affordable housing and stuff, and we're just tearing them down left and right. I mean, it's, this group is assigned some responsibility that they honestly can't maintain. That we're asked to do a job to evaluate these against odds that we can't meet. We know we can't take every one of these houses to the city council for historic designation.
We could.
Well, we could,
Yeah, but
and when we have,
And at some
I mean,
point,
I wouldn't,
suspect they get the message.
honestly, I wouldn't object to doing that in any of these, in particular one that's in really good shape like this, just to raise the issue,
Exactly.
because
Keep
it's
sending
getting
them.
away, it's really getting away from us.
yeah. I mean, we just had this, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
But we just have this exercise of approving the demolition of a previous house because it's indeed in really bad shape. And you show the will to replace it with another house that will conform to the guidelines. But this house is in good shape. You wanna make it a duplex, make it a duplex. You have the right to do it. But it just defies everything. Environmentally, sustainability,
Yeah.
whatever you wanna throw in at it.
Economically.
Yeah, it's just a perfect example, and the next one too, by the way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Ernest, I was gonna ask, do you know if they've even considered, because I mean, with some of the members of the board here, they would be, or the committee would be.
I know that what they want is a brand new product,
Sure.
and that's, I mean,
It'd be half.
I know the product that they're gonna want, and, realistically, my job is a new construction builder predominantly, but,
Yeah.
essentially here representing them, and, I understand all of your concerns. I mean, I will say that if you added on to the back, you would not have any parking, which is, whereas, but, I mean, that's neither, but I recognize your comments, but I know that, I know the points that they want to hit, and that they obviously have done the economic feasibility analysis going both directions. But realistically, they essentially want to tear it down, and this is the demo delay that's presented for us.
I will say, I was contacted, I don't know if it was a month ago, by the owner of this property. And, they did not initiate demolition delay at the time, but they wanted to know what that would entail. And part of their concern was that the house had been on the market for a while and was not selling, which I know is unusual in Bloomington.
It's the economy.
What was that?
Never mind.
Okay.
Let's move on.
So that's just the background that I had before this was presented sometime later.
And I know what is, but it still makes no sense to me to give a house a rating that doesn't afford any protection. It makes absolutely no sense, and you're telling me that the only way we can protect a house that has been designated.
Well, the ratings also have significance for federally funded projects.
Right. But this rating means nothing. We could just vote to tear it down and we tear it down, or designate it its own district. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Not that I don't have a problem sending it to the city council, but I'm sorry, I think I jumped the line.
You're okay. So, let me finish with commissioners, and then Chris, I'll be right over to you. So, I think Daniel, did you comment already? Okay, Jack, I think you're up.
Well, I think it puts us in a horrible position, to not be able to do anything except allow them to tear a house down. No, I'm inclined, to say no, to this. You know, I disagree. We have, the only alternative we have are to let it go and possibly be torn down, most likely it will, or to apparently fight it up to the city council for historic. That's, and I'm hearing from commissioners that's not likely, but I think we're a historic preservation commission. I think it's our duty to fight these things as they need to be fought, and if we lose, we lose. But at some point, we need some sort of criteria, something in the middle that gives us some metrics, what to do when we vote against the demolition delay. How can we handle it? I think we need something there. There's a void, and that's. And this, my comment's going to be the same thing on the next.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Marlene?
Well, if it's an income-producing property, you can also, can't you get some money from the federal and state governments to offset? If it's, well, it has to be designated though,
Well,
or it has to be part of a district.
it would have to be on the National Register of Historic Places, and this I can't think of a way that would qualify for listing for an income-producing historic rehabilitation tax credit.
If it were part of a district, then it could be.
Yeah, so I grew up near this neighborhood. I don't think that the area immediately around here would make an eligible district.
Right.
There's a lot of infill there.
Why not just make this
There's
property
already a lot of-
itself its own district?
There's no there, that's the problem. I mean, what we're arguing is sustainability, affordability, economics, but there's not really a strong historical,
Right. If you present this to city council, you're going to have to make a strong case for this building individually.
which doesn't meet the criteria, so we're kind of stuck, and I suppose we'll talk about this on Saturday.
Yeah, we are stuck.
Chris?
Yeah, I'd like to give some context to this whole issue. One of the things, of course, I'll restate what everybody knows. There's a general survey of property that is different from local designated property, that just surveyed what properties are important, what properties, neighborhood properties could fit into a district. So that's the overlay. That's tied to our demolition delay. So, you know, what it turns us into is witnesses of property that could be eligible for historic protection. We are witnessing the loss of these properties. And the dynamics and what's created this problem has to do with the density upzoning that happens in the UDO at the city council level. You know, the minute that these get upzoned, the value of that little house is inflated because they can now build a duplex. And there's a duplex that has already been proposed that is a duplex, but it's 3 bedrooms in each, 3 bathrooms in each. This is 2 bedrooms in each, 2 bathrooms. They can rent them individually maybe $1,000 a bedroom with a bathroom. So instantly, this property is unaffordable for a single-family investor, someone who wants to buy the house. And that all happened, not in our watch, but it happened when the UDO gets revised and these duplexes or triplexes are approved. And there's going to be another revision of the UDO coming up relatively soon. And, you know, as what we can do with our witnessing of the loss and the impacts of these UDO decisions is make an appearance at the council when they're proposing to increase density even further, and just say, this is what we watch every other week. We watch the most valuable resource maybe in the city, which is affordable single-family housing, disappearing one after another. And that was the impetus when we tried to protect in Green Acres. We thought there would be enough context to save these 1,000 square foot houses. But, you know, it got withdrawn because it was going to get demolished at the council. So we are witnessing, and it's important to witness these things. And then we have to decide what to do as witnesses of the impact of these zoning changes. Because zoning is not our prerogative, but we can witness to what it means and speak for the people that don't see this context. And so it's all right to see these happening and understand why they're happening and know that we are powerless to do anything about it. But if we want to do anything that has any power, it would be to talk to the city council when these UDO changes are coming, because more are coming. And the idea right now among the council is more density is almost always the answer to everything. And you know, what's historic about these neighborhoods is they are historically single-family in form and lower density in form. And I think I've said enough, but I would say you have no choice but to let this go. But, you know, watch it, witness it, consider it, and see the impact of some of these regulations that happen when maybe nobody else is understanding what the impact of those would be.
Very well said, Chris. Thank you. That was very well. Any other comments?
Can I say something more?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I agree with Chris. However, if we continue passing this every other week, City Council, they're not aware of any of this if they don't hear it. So if they don't hear any noise, they don't know that there's something wrong, right? So we are in a position to either send it to City Council or not.
If I may support Ernesto's position, the only way we have to communicate our position to the City Council is to continue to send them there. Send it, let them turn it down.
Do you think that dilutes, am I allowed to speak?
Sure, go right ahead.
Do you think that dilutes, because there are going to be houses, and there are houses every year that are truly historic, truly impressively historic. Does that dilute what it means to send something to City Council?
That's why as a district, and this may not qualify as a district, so you're right, you don't want to send a weak sister, you know, because that's even why Green Acres pulled back. They weren't fully ready, they'd maybe overly asked for too large an area, and they didn't want to put the Historic Commission in a bad position to be massacred in that kind of forum.
But if I may, somebody, somewhere, made the decision to designate this as contributing. I don't know contributing to what.
The state surveyed all properties, and they're required to every so many years, just to let you know what is out there.
No,
It doesn't mean you designated them, but they've given you a background
Right,
survey.
but so then what does this rating of contributing actually mean? Then?
It's to look at if either there's a federally funded project and you need to assess its impact on historic properties, or if a district is going to be designated that would demonstrate that there's, historic character there made up of, contributing notable and outstanding buildings.
Which is basically saying what I'm saying. It's contributing in some way to the historic character of Bloomington.
To a potential
Well,
district.
To a district. It's my understanding, Noah, correct me, and Chris too, anybody, if I'm wrong, but if you take a single property to present it to city council, I always have thought I have been told, it really has to be either a notable or an outstanding building, you can't have a single contributing designation. It has to, because
But is
contributing means it's part of something
Right.
else. And unless there's a district around it, which
Correct.
there doesn't seem to be.
Yeah,
So-
but the designation makes, so you're saying it's contributing to a district that doesn't exist? Or it could potentially contribute to a district
Potential district.
which is not defined. So on what basis do you say that it's contributing if you don't know what the district is gonna look like?
Essentially, what contributing means is it has enough integrity that you can tell when it was built, essentially what the style is, but it doesn't have enough individual architectural significance to be eligible for listing on its own.
There you go.
Unless there's a particularly good reason, like it's associated with somebody significant.
It's like saying I'm tall if I just happen to be in a room of short people. It makes no sense. By calling me tall, you're just hoping that for your rating to make sense, that I step into a room with people 5
No,
feet
it
tall.
You
makes
can take it up with the
It
National
makes
Park
sense.
Service.
There are going to be houses that are obviously not potentially contributing. They've been half demolished, they've been so modified, so they don't even have a chance. But this means if you put enough of these together and they're cohesive, they form a district, you have a district. But if you have a piece that's almost all non-contributing and here's one by itself, it's not.
But what I'm saying, Chris, is that the neighborhood is there. You can tell whether or not there are sufficient houses within a designated area before you give the rating. The rating isn't made arbitrarily based on what you're telling me.
It's a state survey, and people go through and do it.
So if something's rated contributing, it could be rated contributing, but there'd be nothing else around that is. It could be rated contributing and there's lots of other contributing buildings around
But
there.
if there's nothing else around it,
By
then what is it
definition.
contributing to?
By
Potential.
definition, it's not
Potential.
gonna be able to stand by itself in designation.
It's potential.
It's potentially contributing
No, no,
to
it's-
something.
Bring us back around to the topic at
Oh,
hand.
dear God.
Well, with additional context, it could
Yes.
potentially
Yes.
be eligible. And from the background information that I found on this building.
No, but we're talking about
Wait, let him
buildings,
finish.
a neighborhood.
Yes,
that
we're talking
isn't-
about buildings.
It isn't fluid. At the time when you made the rating, the context in which you're making the rating is there in concrete and stone. It's not something that's fluid, like it's gonna be there tomorrow, it could be different tomorrow. It's here today and it's gonna be different tomorrow. These are
Could
houses
be
that are
if the
there.
building's changed.
Over what period? It's glacial. It
Okay, Renard, can I pause for just a second? Because
I'm-
we've got one more topic after this, and we're gonna lose our quorum in about 20 minutes.
I'm done.
So, let me summarize for just a second. So our lane is historic preservation. And when it's an individual house, that individual house has to meet certain criteria to make it historic, okay? Not just age, okay? This one particularly doesn't. There's nothing that significant about it. No one of any significant presence that we know has lived there. So our lane of, is it historic? That's where we have to stay in. Our lane isn't zoning, it isn't affordable housing, it's, is this property historic in nature to the point that it needs to be preserved? Now, the other part that I heard that is in our purview is, as Chris so eloquently said, is we're witnessing a change of the community of Bloomington. And that's where there's a different lane that we can go to and we can present what we're hearing. That's really what we need to be doing, is presenting in that lane and staying in our own lane. And that's painful when we see these old homes coming through, but that's the reality. So with that said, do we have a motion?
I've laid some papers around here for the
Mm-hmm.
delay.
Thank you.
Okay, since I don't hear any motions in support of it, I'm gonna make a motion that we do not support demolition delay to 24-21.
Okay. So,
I mean, not to support release?
Yes. Do I have to read anything, or that's only done? Okay.
There needs to be a second.
there needs to be a second.
So if we don't release, we forward to council?
Correct, that's our option.
Well, your options are to continue, I guess you have to clarify if you're going to continue it to the next meeting,
Mhm.
or if you're gonna motion to designate.
Can I make another comment?
Sure.
Please don't send it to council.
But I believe, Bernard, you have you were gonna.
No, I
make a
just
motion?
didn't hear any motions being made, so I made one. There's a,
So would you clarify it for us, Renard?
I'll withdraw my motion, and allow somebody else to make a motion.
Okay.
I'll say we'll release, which one is it? DD 24-21.
So the motion on the table is to release on this
Okay.
particular one. Do we have a second? Marlene is the second.
Okay. Release. Okay, Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
What happens if I abstain?
Well, I guess if enough people abstain and no votes taken, then this is continued to the next meeting.
Okay, I'll abstain.
okay. Daniel Schlegel,
Grudgingly, yes.
okay. William Falk,
Yes.
Reynard Cross.
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries 3-0-2 to release.
Okay, well, DD 2422. Petitioners North College Partners, also represented by Ernest G.
Oh, we do?
Oh, sorry.
We do?
I know.
Would you like to read it for us, Daniel?
This one I actually do not.
Not really, because I'm not a fan of the Crowder family. I've not met them, but I'm not a fan of what they're doing, so
Okay.
I prefer not to.
I know.
You gonna read?
That's on record, right?
I can read release. Resolution to stop demolition delay waiting period before the 120-day period has expired, and, is that the right one? Adopt one?
Yes, before the 90-day period.
Yeah, period has expired, and allow a partial demolition project to begin for property whose historic designation, if pursued, will take place later. Today, regarding the property located at 800 East Grimes Lane, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed,
Just a second.
the second one. After today's discussion, sees no need to review the plans any further, and waives the rest of the demolition and delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the common council.
Okay. DD 2422, 1200 North Woodburn Avenue. This minimal California bungalow was built in the early 1930s. Its first two owners were Warren Sparks and then Everett Cross, who bought the building in 1950. Both were quarry workers. In the early 1960s, the house was bought by Robert and Naomi Beam. Robert had worked since childhood for the Showers Furniture Company as a boiler maker, but after its closure shifted to the limestone industry and eventually to work in an IU laboratory. Naomi had 2 years of college education and worked the assembly line at Bloomington's RCA plant. Naomi passed in 1993. The request is for full demolition.
Okay. Petitioner comments?
So I do actually own this one. It is in not great shape. It's on a basement. Could it be repaired? Yes. It is zoned mixed medium commercial. There is a higher and better use financially for it. I understand the commission's concerns, 100%. And I realize that sometimes we work on opposite paths, but, you know, this is not inherently a historic property. I own 5 on this street. That's, I guess, everything I would say about it, but I welcome questions on it. It was not my intention to bring 3 also to this meeting.
Daniel, I'll come back to you first this time.
Who is it Jeremy that's our liaison between us and council? Or was I mistaken in believing Jeremy?
Jeremy Langford?
Yeah, for some reason
No.
okay. Do we have that work session? Has anything been planned or moved forward?
No,
with?
I haven't got any buyers on that.
Sorry,
what work session are we talking about?
Earlier in the year, there have been some suggestions of a work session between Historic Preservation Commission and City Council, seeing if any members from either group would be interested in having some sort of discussion section. Nothing has materialized.
From whose end?
It was to align the vision.
No, I mean, where is the support not coming from?
So the
Our
suggestion
end
had come
or
from
the
us,
council end?
and I believe it had been presented to council, and we had not,
They were doing budget or
right,
something,
nothing had
weren't they?
been developed.
And then
Mhm.
they haven't said.
I think it's,
anything
worth
since.
pursuing at some point.
The only reason I ask is just, and I know this was not intentional on your part, so I want to fully acknowledge that. But with all of these, just seeing demo after demo after demo, some were very warranted due to the condition. But, in some other cases, what are options that are available instead of we designate it and it has to be historic, or being able to offer things like, and again, pie in the sky, I have no idea what the city can offer, but tax credits or little mini grants or something to help maintain, because in my line of work, I've repeatedly heard that more often than not, it's more expensive when you look at the full picture to tear down, rebuild, redo versus remodel. In most, I know not all, because I'm not a construction guy. But, and depending on what the other purpose or encroaching is. But I think working with the city to start to just open up conversations so we understand each other, to see what we can offer to help encourage people to keep these houses. Or like in the last case, to create, I know half new, half historic, but, a duplex. And that's where I'm struggling, is I understand we need to move forward, but again, and like Ernesto, like Renard mentioned earlier, is, we just found out that this is in rougher shape, but from the picture, it seems okay, but not being able to see more, know more about the structural integrity or the condition makes it really hard to look at it and be like, so, I don't know, I guess that's more of a comment than a question.
So, looking at perhaps either coming up with incentives or some sort of program that could allow for easier relocation of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess the one question I would have for you, Ernest, is with BRI, are they aware of your intentions with this, or if they can repurpose some items from inside?
So Steve and I have chatted, not about this one, but I think I mentioned earlier, I have 4 contracts in my email to review from Steve on Jefferson. and, you know, we talked, and, you know, I buy into their mission. You know, financially, there are some incentives that work, and, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, making it. They don't, I mean, in terms of number of houses they move a year, it's between 0 and 0.25, I guess, on average, but, but I mean, financially, we get a tax deduction if they do move one. I mean, there is an actual gift that happens. So, I mean, it's something that, you know, we're not opposed to. It really comes down to timing and whether or not, you know, Steve feels like it makes sense. But from a financial perspective, if it works, it works. You know, Steve and I have to chat anyway, and I will bring this up, but the reality is this inherently is not a historic property, and that's just my opinion. It's, you know, up to you guys to decide that, and then up to city council to confirm it.
Right, I just mean, like, I know he's been able to salvage, you know, some of the parts, or,
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know how the interior looks, because I know that's not our purview, but if there's original pieces for, like, the lady that was here earlier, or other folks to be able to.
So this has
to
been a
bring
rental
those.
for like 30 years, and it has been used as a rental for 30 years. And then we actually had to basically cash for keys this thing, because he didn't, it was, okay, all right, thank you. Wasn't student housing, so. Good question.
Why?
No, but I don't have any questions, but is there some way we can just table this until next time, just to see if you could find anything that Steve might be interested in? Maybe we probably could have done that with the previous one.
Well, I guess my question is, if Steve is interested in it, the demo permit still has to be done.
Right,
I
but,
guess.
but we don't have any
Oh, sure.
leverage at all. We have none
I
now,
guess
and we
what I
have
would
less
say is,
now.
like, if I was open to Steve taking the Jefferson houses after they were approved, even the process that it went through to get there, you know, if it, like I said, financially, if it works, it works. If Steve's interested in it, you know, I'm sure he'll come up with a proposal, and if it works, then.
I'm going to actually be meeting with him tomorrow for something different. So I can bring up that we had a couple of demolition delays that came up this meeting, and.
So I guess my point is, if Steve was interested in it over the next 4 weeks, which I think it's a, you know, it's a November, December cycle, so there's only one meeting a month, nothing effectively changes versus if he's interested after you release demo delay. I suppose that would be my.
Well, except that you can demolish it tomorrow.
Well, technically, I still have to get a permit from planning.
Well,
which
so you can demolish it within 2 weeks, but it would take Steve a bit longer to figure out a piece of property, where to put it, and all this stuff. So if you don't talk to him, if you know you're gonna want to demolish these things, and you don't make a concerted and honest effort to talk to him in a timely fashion, then it looks like there is no real interest. And I hate to say that, but that's
Oh, no,
the
absolutely.
fact of it. You knew this was gonna happen.
Sure.
I mean, this is chastising, I suppose.
All
But you knew this was gonna happen. You
Sure.
knew the previous one was gonna happen. And yet, and you know Steve's here, and you know that we want this to happen.
Mhm.
And if there were a good faith effort on your part, and not you particularly,
Sure.
but you in the general scheme of things,
Mhm.
you would have talked to him, because you know he exists. You know this is an interesting thing for us.
Sure.
And so it's kind of heartrending to hear that you say, well, if he
I
does it
think
in the
if
next
it
3
is-
weeks, then, if he does it in the next 3 weeks, then it's okay, but otherwise, bang, it's gone.
Well, I think the issue I have with you know, is I know what the process for moving is like, and I know the success rate, and for me to give options, you know, extended options without.
But it just
'cause-
takes one moment. That's the problem. It just takes
Well-
one moment for it to work. But you haven't given it the chance to work. That's the problem.
Any questions?
No questions.
Yes, sir.
No questions.
5 minutes. Just heads up.
Daniel, back to comments?
No, I said my comments, I believe, so.
Position's clear.
Okay.
No comments.
Lauren?
No comment.
Marlene?
No comments.
Kristen? Okay.
Short comment.
Yes, sir?
Upzoning makes the ground under the house worth more than the house.
Yeah.
Yep.
It absolutely incentivizes these demolitions. That's my comment.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, we release DD 2422.
We have a second? Marlene, second.
Okay. Marlene Newman,
Can you come back and ask me later?
okay.
Thank you.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Thank you very good. Yes, doesn't matter. Seriously.
you voted, I'm sorry, did you?
Yes, I
Yes,
said
okay,
yes.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
William Falk,
Yes.
Reynard Cross,
Abstain.
Marlene.
Yes.
Okay. All right, motion carries 4-0-1.
I will talk to Steve about this, even off.
Okay, so you read this? Okay.
We talked about it actually.
Resolution to stop demolition delay waiting period before the 120-day period has expired and allow a partial demolition project to begin for a property
Hold on, Mr. Falk's reading the statement.
whose historic designation, if pursued, will take place later. Today regarding the property located at 1200 North Woodburn Avenue, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of proposed demolition, partial demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council. Okay. Sure thing. Any additional comments from anyone before we go on to new business, old business?
1 minute.
What's that?
Should be 1 minute.
I told no, I can stay a few minutes after since I was running a little late to get
Well,
here,
I mean, feel free to stay. We're done with, voting issues.
Okay.
So we don't need a quorum, but if you want to stick around.
Like I said, I have a minute or two, so I
Okay.
can.
So, new business, I think you're up, Noah.
New business, commissioner retreat this weekend, speaking of BRI, it's at their headquarters from 11 to 2. I've been preparing PowerPoint as well as, this sort of questionnaire thing that we did at the commissioner training program in Madison. So something akin to that for people who were there, where basically you can give me feedback about various aspects of Bloomington's preservation program and your time serving on the commission. Sorry. The city will no longer be providing food, so I'll order some pizzas or something that people like. That's really what I have to say. Yes.
Why not?
Why is the city not providing food?
Yes.
They changed their policy this year where they only provide food for full day events.
What's a full day?
That's like a full day.
What?
What's a full day?
4 hours on a Saturday feels like a full day.
Yeah, what's defined as a full day?
Yeah.
That's a good question. You know what?
Ask.
Because
The
we
attorney.
could probably get food pretty quickly.
First I've heard of it.
Is it-
I think you should just go out there, Noah, and just buy food and just submit the receipt for reimbursement.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, that's worth
I'll,
a shot.
I'll support you.
Okay.
No, let's
It's
talk about
crazy.
it.
Sure. Because, yeah, it's not clear who in the city now knows exactly how the policy works, so.
It's a representative.
Test it.
Mhm. Okay.
Anything else now?
Unless anybody else has more to say about that, any commissioner comments?
I have one.
Yes.
And it comes back to the issue with the engineer's report and so on. like I said, you know, I've been here where we have torn people's petition to pieces because of lack of information.
Mhm.
And I came to believe that there was a minimum standard that was expected. You know, a petitioner coming to say, listen, these are the criteria. These, 3, 4, and 7 are the ones that I'm hinging my petition on. I didn't see any of that in this packet. I didn't see anything to support it from any kind of expert as would be required by the guidelines. So what I'm saying is, if it is that we need to codify some kind of standard, because I don't think I'm almost sure it was codified somewhere of what the minimum standard was. If it's even in the minutes of the meeting where we made it clear as to what we needed to see in a packet for us to make a decision, I know that it was somewhere. If we could just adhere to those standards as a minimum, as a voting member, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Renard. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just have a brief comment. I think we probably all got this email inviting us to a reception, and it might be the kind of thing you just want to delete right away. But I want to say, if you're free that night, I think it's a good idea to go. I went last year. I was the only one, which was fine, I think. But, and I don't have any idea how standard this is, but the mayor did come in, give a little speech, how great all these volunteers are, and he actually went through the list of boards and commissions and asked us to raise our hands. And I raised my hand, and, he looked up, right, as he'd said, oh, anybody here from whatever board, planning, whatever, and then HPC, and, we had eye contact. I think that's a good thing. I didn't sit down and have a conversation with him, but he knows me or knows who I am. And I just would say, don't brush it off.
When is it? 'Cause I thought it ended up
December
like-
6th.
It's December 6th, it's a Friday.
5:30, yeah.
There's another part in the email that said December 4th, but it made it clear
It's on Friday.
it's on Friday,
I'm always
5:30
looking
or
for
something.
good things to do on a Friday night.
They give you a little
precedes,
At my age,
and it precedes the art walk, so
Get a
there'll
lot
be
of
things
offers.
going on that
Yeah.
evening as well.
Anyway, that's all, my
What-
2
what-
cents.
Can you just tell us what time it was and where it was? Because it's somewhere I
Well,
was supposed to get on the
I
calendar,
think
but
it's
it didn't.
5:30
I believe it's
5:30.
5:30.
to 7:30 maybe.
Where?
It's 2 hours, yeah.
At the Waldron.
Correct. And I would agree with what she said.
It's just politics.
Environment, familiarity, and conversations with the right individuals creates credibility. And it also creates a pathway where things can be influenced. So by not showing up to something like that, we're missing probably the most significant opportunity we could have all year. So if you have time, I would recommend showing up.
Was it 5 to 7?
I think it's 5:30 to 7:30. But it's flexible, you could go at,
Right, I know. You should all go
you
and
don't
then
wanna
go.
go
Thank you,
early,
Daniel.
but you could go at 6.
You should all
Okay,
go
anything
and-
else before?
Yeah, one quick thing. Chris brought up a point about UDO revision coming up, and this is something that we could possibly, I don't know if there's enough time on the agenda for the retreat, but perhaps our experience here should lead us to producing, I don't know, a document of some kind, or to come to a common position that maybe a representative could present.
I'm one of the
During
things,
that during that
one of the things I
revision.
was thinking about, Renard, during this meeting was the number of demo delays that we've had over the past 12 months, and doing a year-end summary with one picture
Good.
and one section of comments, that perhaps as the interim chair, that I could present to the mayor and at least one member of city council to say, here's the one outstanding item that there seems to be a disconnection on between our commission and what's actually occurring, and we want to make sure you're aware of it so you can provide
We
me
see it
some
and it
additional
never gets
direction
to
on it.
you because of these regulations, so
So I-
it's something you need to be aware of.
So that's one thing I'm thinking of, a year-end summary. I mean, in my business career, that's something we would always do. We'd sit down and reflect on the year's happenings and meet with whoever the higher level body is and say, here's what we accomplished that was very good. Here's what we accomplished that was, let's say, mediocre. Here's what we accomplished that didn't feel very good. And putting together something like that, I think would be valuable.
Yeah, and some more research, we don't have to go back just for a year. I
Right.
mean, this has been a problem, I mean, easily going back 5 years, we could see all the houses that we had to release demolition delay on. So-
Chris, you had
Yeah, the reason we also may be drawn into politics, there could be some proposed changes to our own preservation laws.
That's right.
You know, so that could be something that bubbles up, so we'll have to be paying attention, and we may have to very much participate.
I've gotten
at that
quite used to
level.
losing politically, Chris.
No, I understand.
So.
I'm a good loser.
Can I add,
Also,
Yes.
winning is important.
Yeah.
Yes, well, if we're looking into preparing a document, it would be, I think, important to show graphically what this means, not just in words, you know? If you see a map of the city of Bloomington with the last 10 years, we don't have to go back too much, but at least 10 years, what demolition delay has done to the city of Bloomington, that would be very impactful.
Slideshow, pictures.
Yeah.
This is gone, this is gone, this is
You
gone.
know, visuals are everything, you know? People don't, for the most part, don't read.
But part of understanding it is that it's, not a district, but a neighborhood. So how would you visually, you know, I mean, like, because one house can go and it's,
Sure, year by year.
but if you have a whole.
Exactly, yeah.
Longitudinally,
But
you just show
how do you show them?
1990, and then just show 91, and you just see houses just
Yeah,
every
you'll
year, they
see
just
these
continue being
dots,
X'd off.
you could do it gradually, showing every 2 years how this is spreading out and the impact that it has. I mean, we have access to those maps, right? I mean, it would be easy to, there should be a map already.
So those could be those could happen. I was gonna say, Donovan Ripkema has a really good talk on the loss of of small historic houses. And
Yeah,
I would suggest that we try to bring him in on a speaking event. And you look him up, if you aren't familiar, look him up and watch his talk on.
How far back I am.
You know, that's a good idea. I mean, why isn't the case that the Historic Preservation Commission doesn't have like a forum? Like to speak to the citizens of Bloomington and talk about the consequences of demolition delay.
And as long as.
So it sounds like there's enough energy around, if I would work with Noah on something like that, that we would present.
Yeah.
Also, like,
What are the speaking?
to speak to your point, there is money through the university
Thank
for a
you very much,
for a
yes.
speaker, which.
Right.
Is there an annual time that we usually have a speech like that?
Let's see, there's Preservation Month, though I will say, per this grant that we got, the Preservation Month event, or there could be multiple, but at least part of it is going to be related to Liz's project documenting African American history on the West Side. I am looking at speakers because I'm aware of that Cornelius O'Brien Fellowship, so that would be great.
I'm on the board.
No kidding.
They don't know.
I'll just add that BRI talked about maybe bringing him for its annual speaker, but the consensus is the people you really want to hear this is city council.
Yeah.
And they don't come to those things.
Right.
So it worked really well when he was here before. Evidently, it was part of some somehow this.
It was a larger speech.
It was a larger.
In council chambers.
In council chambers but somehow it was a
preservation
city event.
sponsored.
Yeah, something, make sure that, you know,
You can always reserve a room.
Can what?
You can always
That-
reserve a room.
that they're part of it.
Anything else before we adjourn?
No.
No? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.